Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of CEDH The Lost, a podcast about CEDH. Today it's just me again. I wanted to get a video out today on Tuesday. I'm going to be recording a little bit later today with Nick and Parker going over the Gabby tournament, which was a huge success, I gotta say, on their end. And I'm not going to spoil the results just now, but just here to tell you, Bellingham boys ate that day. Um, But yeah, today I'm going to be talking about Rogsi again. I've been loving this deck, but we're also going to be talking about our boy fblthp, and then where it all started. The fblthp deck back in the day when I made a primer for the deck. Um, yeah, we're going to be talking about, I guess, where this episode comes from is me and Parker showed up like an hour before doors open, and Atlas for the tournament on Saturday. And Atlas came out, and me and Atlas played Mental Magic, and he was like, why are you in the dark side right now?" Because I was on Rogsi, and that's like the spooky boogeyman of the format. Um, but yeah, I was like, well, I really like the deck, and a lot of the fblthp inspirations come from the play patterns that Silas Rogrek has. And I wanted to kind of go into the depth into there and actually talk about what I'm saying. So we have that, so you guys see what I'm talking about. So Silas Rogrek, the fastest deck in the format. Most of you are going to be like, how is this compared to fblthp? Well, obviously, fblthp's not as fast, not even close as fast, but we do take some of the similar play patterns, like where we're trying to get a turn one fblthp with a ton of mana, so we can turn on our Mox Ambers, our Fierce Guardianships. Obviously, in Mono Blue, we only have a few ways of actually taking advantage of that, but we do have still things like Paradise Mantle, because our goal is to turn one fblthp almost every game. Like in Rogsi, we're going to be on Fierce, Deflecting Swat, Deadly Rollick, the Mox Amber, Paradise Mantle, Springleaf Drum, all that. And we see in this deck that we're also on Springleaf Drum, Paradise Mantle, Fierce, Amber. So we're on the exact same cards that we can be playing. Rogsi is just that much better because you get like 3 more cards like that. But fblthp, one of the cool things about fblthp is that we substitute that by playing Commandeer. Commandeer is like a deflecting swat, basically. It's a worse deflecting swat, but it has even better upside. You ever commandeer someone's Adnaz, it's really cool. You can like hit someone's early Soul Ring if they're like a turbo deck. Their Ristic Study is really good. The idea with Rogsi is that you have to like cheese wins out of the table sometimes, because if they're all playing responsibly, you just don't win. That's the same with fblthp. If they know what they're doing, you're not going to win that game. So we're on Commandeer in this version, and then the most recent one that I took to a tournament that got 10th. Fibble Stacks is also on Commandeer. I think it's one of the best cards in the entire deck. Yeah, and then so we're cheesing things. Even in this deck, I went as deep as Copy Enchantment and Steel Enchantment, just because Ristic Study is our #1 hardest card to win through. And with Copy Enchantment and Steel Enchantment, we can just either copy it and go the grindier game, or we can steal it. There's some Rogsi decks that are on Steel Enchantment. This one is not, because this is more typical Rogsi. But with that being said, I even took some inspiration from fblthp and put it into Rogsi. So cards like Limdual's Vault typically doesn't see play in Rogsi, because it's just seen as too slow. But sometimes you need to be able to pivot. So with fblthp, you're a control deck. but if you have enough mana and there's a window, you should be able to cast take an extra turn spell and then go for it. Which is another thing I took from rogsi. But sometimes in rogsi, since you are taking those extra turns and then going for it, sometimes you need to be able to pivot to a later game plan. Some people do that with like Italian. I'm not the biggest fan of Italian, so I'm on Limdilswald instead. So I can go a slower route, and this is, I view it as an ad nause for a specific card that won't get countered, right? Because you can go through your entire deck for about 15 life. You get to see 75 cards at that point, and it typically when you do it, you need exactly one card, and you can win the game with like a protected win, and that's something that's very good. In Rogsi, we're on days. fblthp, we're on days as well. We're on days for different reasons, actually. Rogsi, we're in it because we're trying to win super fast, so your opponents are going to be short on mana. So we can bounce our already tapped Volcanic Island to counter a spell as protection. Whereas in fblthp, days is in here for against Rogsi and these other super fast decks that are trying to get a super explosive turn. We can just bounce on our island and counter it. It does set us back a little bit, but we're okay with that if we don't lose the game. Yeah, a little sneak peek, I guess, of how the tournament went. I did pretty well, but I lost 2 of my games solely to Deafening Silence, which feels bad. That Deafening Silence just shuts down Rogsi, because if you look at Rogsi, there's exactly 2 answers for a Deafening Silence. We have Chain of Vapor, and then we have Otawara in this list. So something I want to do before the next tournament, especially since there was like, I swear there was like 19 Sisei decks. I want to put in another bounce spell for enchantments, and I think Stern Dismissal might be that card, which is a card I've been really high on in fblthp, just because it bounces your opponents for 6 studies. So I can go off and win, especially in this version, where I'm trying to do a Isochron Scepter, Proteus Staff, cast a bunch of spell combos. So I think that's a card that I'm going to add. I'm not on Psych Rift in Rogsi, which maybe that's just the card, because it's just an ultimately better card. But I think I wanna try out, where is it? Stern Dismissal. I don't know what I'm gonna cut exactly. A card that I've been underwhelmed with the entire time I've had Rogsi together is Winter Orb. Let me actually just do that now. Let's go. Am I not signed in? I am not signed in this account. That's okay. I'll do it later. Yeah. Pact, obviously. Same reason it's in Rogsi as in fblthp is when we go for the wins, it's just a free counter spell. Yeah, I've been only really talking about this primer, but the other deck also has inspiration. So Fibble stacks. If we look at the sorceries, we're on Capture, Karns, Temporal Sundering, Temporal Manipulation, and then Instants, we're on Nexus of Fate. So we're on 4 take an extra turn spells. Plus, actually, we're also on... Maybe this list isn't on it. This isn't the exact list then that I was playing at Punt City. Because there was a... Let me check one more deck. Hold on, guys. We got fblthp. It might be fblthp April 2024. It probably is. Open link. Yeah, let me get the view options fixed for us. Nope, don't care. Let's go by type. Save. Readjusted. Thank you. Excuse me, guys. We got to capture and expropriate temporal. So 3, and then the Nexus of Fate. So this is what I took from Rogsi for this deck is the extra turn spells. Because even just casting an extra turn spell is pretty decent of just, yeah, I like to cast this. Draw a card, play another land, pass is like the bare minimum of the card. But the upside is with like Nexus, if you find a window, you can just cast it, take an extra turn, and win the game. Or you can go like instance, Born Upon the Wind, cast that. So you're casting a Nexus of Fate that doesn't get shuffled back in, but you could draw a card with Born Upon a Wind and find a win. Yeah, so it's really good. And then, yeah, so those are like the cards that I took from both of them. Deck that I want to, yeah. There's a world where fblthp goes like even quicker, I think. Like this is obviously a slower version of the deck because we're on like counterbalance top. This is fblthp April 2024. On the Fibble Stacks one, we were on Arcane Laboratory, Back to Basics, Chalice of the Void, Pithing Needle, Portcullis, Stone, Sea Double. Those were all cards that we were on, but this version decided to come off of them. I would like to see a more turbo fblthp, so maybe that's something I brew. Another thing that I did was I had Tabernacle for the longest time, but I recently sold the card because it's not a good card in CDH, if I'm being honest. It makes you the threat. Sure, fblthp can take advantage of it. Teferi can take advantage of it, but you'll see the card and you're like, ooh, here's my $4,000 card. Let's keep the hand because of it. And maybe that's just how I am, but it wasn't very conclusive to my game plan. So I traded it in, got some Expedition Shocks, finished off my duels, Yawgmoth's Will, some other things. Yeah, but I wanted to talk about the different philosophies that I took from Rogsi, and then I think that Rogsi can take from my time playing fblthp. Because I think every time you pick up a new deck, you learn something new, and you can use that to develop your game plan. That's why I think I'm that good at Magic the Gathering as a whole, is because there was a year and a half where every single week at locals, I would bring a different CDH deck and just try it out. Even if it was like a homebrew CDH deck, I would still just try it out to see if I can learn anything new about the format or something that we wanted to see and how things worked. Yeah, and that's why I have like the opinions that I do. I think it's because a lot of the decks I play, obviously there's a certain number of staples that you're required to play. But over time, when you play more and more different decks, you'll see that these cards, sure, they seem very strong on the front, and that's because you're playing the same deck over and over. But when you play different decks, you're like, hey, do I really need to be stopping my opponent in this way when I can just use a different piece of interaction? I.e., my opinions on Dranith and Opposition Agent. I think both of those are bad cards. Dranith is really good turn 1 and 2. I 100% agree. It's probably the best card in the format, turn 1, 2, and 3. But then post turn 3, it gets drastically worse every single turn, and your chance of drawing it goes up every single turn when you remove cards from your deck. And a really cool theory to think about is, why should you be playing cards that get worse when the game goes later in a multiplayer format designed to go later? Um, and another way to look at it is on turn 9, are you excited to see a Draenith Magistrate? Most of the time it's no. Um, which is, I think, interesting because there's people in the community like Atlas and other brewers in the community that their philosophy is that I want cards in my deck that are never bad cards, um, or never dead cards, I guess is a better way to put it, because you can have bad cards that aren't dead. Um, and I think Draenith is one of those cards that is just a dead card at a certain point in the game. Like, all your opponent's commanders are out, none of them are in breach decks. Or even if they are, we already stopped the breach, so there's no way of it coming back. 2 Savine's Rex have been used, so there's only 1 left at the table, but everyone has a full grip. Card advantage engines. Is Draenith really where you want to be? Probably not. So why are we putting it in our decks? Is my argument with Draenith. Oppo. Why do you need to stop your opponents from tutoring? Just play counter spells. Silence. You'll be fine. Sure, it can win you the game, but most of the time it never wins you the game. And then it's a stacks piece that people are just going to wait until they have free interaction or removal spell, and then they'll win. And then you're just kind of shit out of luck. And you're just kind of floating in water at that point, because it's like, oh no, my stacks piece that didn't allow anyone to tutor got removed. Now they tutor and win. Why are you spending 3 mana on that, right? Especially when it's the easiest thing on the board to remove at any given time. Because any creature removal, any bounce spell typically removes the card. That's my opinion on Oppo. And why are we playing a reactive card when we're supposed to be trying to win the game? Is another thing. Like, if you're a control deck, I can understand Oppo. I was on Oppo and Talion because I thought I needed it to beat Sisay decks. Turns out, just kill Sisay. A removal spell does the exact same thing as an opposition agent, just counters Sisay twice. Most of the time they're not recasting them for at least 1 or 2 turns. Let me just make sure that I'm still recording. I am still recording. This is epic. But yeah, those are like the 2 biggest hot takes. And then another deck that I wanted to, that me and Parker after CDH6 are gonna both build up. We're gonna work on it, of course, but it's dragons but good. This is a name reference to a friend of ours, Carissa. She likes playing dragon decks because she likes dragons, but she wanted a better dragon CDH deck, so I built this up with kind of my spin on it, and then obviously some cards that she personally likes as well. Yeah, Zergo and Ojitai, 4/4 flyer for 5 with haste. He has hexproof as long as he entered the battlefield this turn. Whenever 1 or more dragons you control deals combat damage to a player or battle, look at the top 3 cards of your library. Put 1 of them into your hand, and the rest on the bottom in any order. You may return 1 of those dragons to its owner's hand, so 1 of the ones that dealt damage. This is worded like Timna. So if you hit 3 different players with 3 different dragons, you'll look at the top 9 cards, which is really good. Or, my personal favorite, is if you clone it with like Sakashima or Spark Double, or I think this deck's even on Sarkon. Yeah, I have Sarkon in here, which might come out. But yeah, so we're on these clone effects and roaming throne to copy Zergo. So when we hit 2 players, we're going to have 2 Zergo triggers hitting 2 different players. That means each one's going to look at the top 6 and put 2 cards from among them into your hand, kind of, which is drawing 4 cards off of 1 clone, and then it's going to be 9 cards off of 3 clones, and it gets worse and worse for your opponents after that. So that's like the entire deck, is you're playing like a slower mid-range control list with a massive value engine in the command zone that you copy to get more value. On cards like Anger the Gods, I thought this card was cute. I don't know if it actually belongs in the deck, but it kills all the small creatures like Dothy, Draenith, Oppo, cards that I don't like, but they're there, while not killing your dragon, which I think is the important part. Blasphemous Act, just best red board wipe, so we're on it. Gamble, of course, Heat Shimmer. This is going to become a Molten Duplication, I believe. I have to update the list to how I want it when I build it. Savine's obviously Twin Flame, because we're on Dual Caster. I guess I should have mentioned. Yeah, we're on Dual Caster, and then we're on Underworld Breaches, like the two main win cons. Wheel of Fortune, obviously, and then Winds of Change is a cool one. Me and Parker on our ride home were talking about it. He was looking at the list to see what he needed to pick up for it. And he was like, "Why are we on Winds of Change? Wouldn't Windfall be better?" And I was like, "I mean, you can play Windfall." And I thought about it, and I was like, "Why am I on Winds of Change?" And then I remembered when you draw 9 cards off of your Zergo and Ojutai, if one of them is Winds of Change and the other cards are doo-doo butter, you can Winds of Change and draw 8 new cards plus whatever else was in your hand when you did that. While not giving your opponents cards, where Windfall will give your opponents that many cards. So I think it's a necessary evil, and when you're going first and have a Mountain Winds of Change, you most likely win the game. And then we look at the instance, pretty typical. We're on Ephemerate because we're on the Spellseeker line of cast Spellseeker, go get Ephemerate, cast Ephemerate, go get Enlightened Tutor. Hold on, am I doing that right? No, go get Final Fortune, cast Final Fortune, move to your next turn, upkeep trigger, Ephemerate will happen, Flickering Spellseeker to go get Enlightened Tutor, cast Enlightened Tutor, put Underworld Breach on top, Underworld Breach line, which you're going to be able to do because you've cast 1 spell in Ephemerate, 2 spells with Enlightened Tutor, 3 spells with Underworld Breach, and then you can Underworld Breach your Ephemerate for 4 to go get Brain Freeze, and then 5 for the Brain Freeze, which is going to mill you 15 cards at least, and if you can't find a way to win from there, I don't know what to tell you. Because you can get Ephemerate again. I guess you wouldn't be... Yeah, you'd be able to... No, because Ephemerate's exiled. You should be able to find a way to win from there, because you still get to draw a card for turn, and then whatever else is in your hand. Yeah. And then, something that I took kind of from Rogsi is winning the game and protection. So we're as deep as Orm's Chant, Silence, and sorceries. They're not in here, but there's Final Fortune, and I think I want to be on the other two red ones, and then I want to be on the red-white instant speed one, because I think the idea of the deck is get your 9 cards, cast an extra turn spell, sculpt your hand, move to your next turn, draw a card, get another 9 cards, present a win. I think is the idea that I want to go for. Carissa didn't like those, so I believe she took out Conqueror's Flail, Orm's Chant, and Final Fortune, which is okay because we all have different playstyles. Artifacts, pretty simple. I think I want to go up other talismans just to get some more ramp. And then I think I want to take Curse Totem out because I think we're trying to be a little bit more proactive. Enchantments make sense. Maybe Spiteful Banditry comes out just because, sure, it's good, but sure, it's also bad. And I think we already have enough border wipes. If I want one more, I'm going to put Supreme Verdict in, because something we can do is we can attack with like 2 Zergo and Ojutais, draw our cards, bounce them because there's 2 of them, so we can bounce 2 dragons we control, and then we can cast Supreme Verdict so we don't lose any of our creatures. Well, we lose our creatures, but they're in our hand instead of the bin, and your opponents lose their creatures, which I think is a pretty interesting gameplay. We're on Born, of course, for instant speed wins. Intuition piles, obviously. Nexus of Fate I thought was cool. Maybe we go up 1 more or 2 more, take an extra turn spells. So when we have our large number of Zergo and Ojutais, we can find these extra turn spells, cast them, get more and more cards. We're on Wear and Tear. I don't know if this is the best card, but it destroys artifacts and enchantments. And I really want to be able to storm off without ristic studies. That's like my biggest concern. And I think with Zerg or Nojatai's card advantage, we can find this card when we want, or if we don't need it at the certain moment, we can just always put it on the bottom. And then lands, it's pretty simple mana base, honestly. 28 lands, maybe we go down one, down to 27, maybe 26. But I do want to put in, there's only one Surveil land right now, and it's Thundering Falls. I want to put in two more, because with Rogsi, I realize that they're the best cards in the deck, if I'm being real. There's been so many games where I'm just like, pish posh applesauce. You guys have 4 pieces of interaction. I know you do, because your turn 1s and 2s were doo-doo butter. Let me just surveil 3 times, have someone else try winning because they found a win attempt, get stopped, and then I'll win after you, is like a classic maneuver I've been doing recently, and it's been really fun to do that, if I'm being honest. And I'm super happy with all 3 of them being in. I got punished, I think, once maybe, and that's because I drew my surveil land instead of end step fetching for it like a dummy. But that was my own fault. It wasn't the land's fault. It's just because I forgot how to sequence my turn. But yeah, that's basically the episode, I guess. I really wanted to talk about Silas and fblthp, but then I went on a tangent. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. This will be out sometime today on May 28th, most likely. Yeah, thank you guys for watching. Have a good rest of your day.